A $24 billion industry erased 6 hunting methods from public knowledge. I found them in wartime field guides from 1943 buried deep in government archives that nobody visits. During the war, ammunition was rationed and modern gear did not exist. Yet families in Appalachia and the Ozarks filled their freezers every year without spending a dime. Because they had knowledge so effective, the industry had to bury it to survive. One of these methods uses creek mud and beats every scent spray on the shelf. Another predicts where the biggest buck will feed at dawn without a single trail camera. Welcome to American Hunting Secrets, where we bring back the knowledge the hunting industry wanted you to forget. Subscribe and hit the bell. December 1941, Pearl Harbor. Meat was rationed overnight, and families of 4 received 2 pounds per week. You hunted or you starved, but cartridges were scarce too, and every round had to count. That created the most efficient generation of hunters this country has ever seen. Then the war ended, and the outdoor industry exploded. By 2024, hunting equipment reached a $24 billion global market, and the scent elimination industry alone generates $300 million per year selling bottled chemistry. Every free method your grandfather carried in his head got replaced by a product on a shelf, not because the old ways failed, but because they stopped being profitable. Here is what they erased from history. Method number 1, creek mud scent control. Your grandfather never bought a $40 bottle of scent killer in his entire life. He walked to the nearest creek, grabbed dark mud from the bottom and rubbed it on his boots, his pant legs, and his jacket sleeves. He crushed pine needles into it and mixed in wood ash from the fire. He smelled like the forest floor because he was wearing the ground. A white-tailed deer has 297 million olfactory receptors. You have 5 million. A dog has 220 million. The deer beats even the dog. Professor Ditchkoff at Auburn University says deer detect scent 1,000 times better than any human alive. Penn State's Deer Forest study tested commercial scent-absorbing suits against trained detection dogs, and the dogs found the human every time regardless of the suit. The researcher said no amount of dollars will cover your scent from a deer with 297 million receptors. Creek mud works because it does not try to eliminate scent. It buries your human signature under organic compounds that the deer has categorized as completely harmless since the day it was born. Wet earth decomposing leaves, mineral clay, and bark tannins are the baseline molecules of the forest itself. No alarm gets triggered. Now creek mud is just one of 6 wartime methods the industry buried to build a $300 million scent elimination empire. There are other techniques like this that old-timers guarded fiercely, and I spent years collecting every one and verifying them with studies. I put all of them together in the Hunter's Vault, which is waiting for you right now in the first link of the description below this video. But stay right here, because the next method changes how you prepare the night before you ever step foot outside your front door. Method number 2, the smoke cure. Native American hunters used this technique centuries before European settlers ever reached this land, and during the Second World War, it was standard practice in every serious hunting family from the Appalachian Ridges to the Rockies. The night before a hunt, your grandfather hung his wool jacket and canvas pants near a low, smoldering campfire using hickory or oak wood. Not a blaze, but a slow, smoky burn that lasted through the entire night. By morning, those clothes carried the most ancient natural scent that any woodland ecosystem has ever known across millions of years. Smoke from wildfires and lightning strikes has been part of the forest environment since long before deer existed on this continent at all. A deer does not interpret wood smoke as a human threat whatsoever. Its brain categorizes smoke the same way it categorizes wind or rain. When you combine smoke-cured clothes with creek mud on your boots, you create a scent profile that is 100% forest and 0% human. No chemical trace, no synthetic compounds, no cost. The hunting industry replaced this free combination with ozone machines, scent-free detergents, activated carbon suits, and UV killing sprays, each product engineered to do what a campfire and a creek bed already accomplished for free. Your grandfather would laugh at what we spend. Method number 3, the acorn calendar. This single technique alone can replace the need for food plots that cost $1,200 per acre to plant, fertilize, and maintain every single season. Your grandfather never planted a food plot in his life because he knew how to read what the forest was already serving for dinner each week. And every fall, the main course for whitetails across America is acorns. But not all acorns are equal, and the deer absolutely know the difference. White oak acorns contain the lowest tannic acid of any hard mast crop, which makes them sweet tasting and the easiest for any deer to digest. Dr. James Kroll at the Whitetail Research Institute documented that deer choose white oaks over every other nut available and will travel significant distances to feed under a single tree that is producing. The moment white oak acorns hit the ground, deer abandon food plots, crops, and every other food source on your entire property to get them. Red oaks drop later in the season and taste more bitter to the palate. But they last much longer because tannin acts as a natural preservative. The University of Florida Deer Lab confirmed that red oak acorns sat untouched for 2 months, then became the hottest food source around once cold weather arrived and the white oaks had already been consumed. Your grandfather knew exactly which trees were producing every fall by walking the timber and reading the forest floor for fresh sign. He found the single tree that was raining acorns while others were empty, and he set up downwind within range and waited for the deer. No food plot, no $1,200 seed bill, no tractor needed. The food plot industry sells you seed and fertilizer for ground that the forest was feeding for free and your grandfather never paid a dime. Method number 4, the natural ground blind. Before the industry invented the $500 pop-up blind, your grandpa built his own from the forest in about 30 minutes flat. He found a natural depression or fallen tree and stacked brush around it until he vanished into the landscape using deadfall branches and leafy limbs from the forest floor. No bright fabric, no foreign shapes, no chemical smell, just a structure made entirely from the same materials the deer walks past every single day of its life without a second thought at all. This is the critical detail that most modern hunters miss completely. A $500 pop-up blind is a foreign object in the woods. Even a camouflage pattern printed on synthetic fabric looks wrong to a deer because the shape is unnatural and the smell is industrial. Research from the University of Georgia showed that white-tailed deer possess dichromatic vision, meaning they see blues and greens strongly but cannot distinguish red or orange from the surrounding foliage. However, they detect contrast and unfamiliar shapes far better than we realize. A square pop-up blind sitting in a round, natural environment triggers their attention, even if the color seems right to our eyes. A ground blind, built from the same sticks and leaves that surround it, creates zero visual contrast and zero scent alarm whatsoever. Your grandfather's blind looked like a brush pile because it was one. It smelled like the forest because it was made of the forest itself. Deer walked past it at 10 yards without flinching and never knew that the most dangerous predator in those woods was sitting inside. The blind industry sells you convenience. Your grandfather built something better for free, and it worked the very first afternoon. Method number 5, fox walking. This technique changed how military scouts moved through enemy territory, and it was adapted from Native American methods perfected over thousands of years on this continent. The principle is simple, but almost no modern hunter practices it. Instead of placing your heel down first like a normal walking stride, you place the ball of your foot down first with your weight still on your back leg. You feel the ground beneath you before committing. If you feel a twig or dry leaves, you shift without making a sound, 1 step per breath, 1 breath per heartbeat. That is the rhythm. Still hunting, which uses this technique, was the primary method for deer hunting in America for 300 years before the tree stand was ever invented. A University of Montana study on elk disturbance found that animals detect approaching humans primarily through sound, and that reducing noise signatures increased the distance at which a hunter could approach before triggering a flight response. Your grandfather did not sit in a tree stand for 12 hours waiting for a deer to walk past him. He moved through the timber slowly and deliberately, reading sign as he went and closing the distance himself. The tree stand industry generates hundreds of millions per year, selling the idea that you must sit still and wait. Your grandfather knew that a patient man moving through the forest at the right pace with the right technique was the deadliest hunter in the woods. Fox walking costs nothing. It requires no equipment at all, just discipline and the willingness to slow down and feel the earth beneath your feet before you ever commit your weight to the ground. Method number 6, the rubline map. This replaces $300 trail cameras and expensive cellular plans. Your grandfather walked a property in a single morning and told you where the biggest buck was, sleeping where he was feeding, and which route he traveled every evening. He did it by reading rub lines. A buck rubs his antlers on trees not randomly, but in deliberate patterns that reveal his travel route. A line of fresh rubs on saplings, 3 to 5 inches in diameter, creates a road map that shows you which direction the buck was heading, because bucks almost always rub the side of the tree they approach. If the rubbed bark faces north, the buck was moving from south to north. Follow the line and you find his bedroom on one end and his kitchen on the other. Set up in the middle and you're in his living room. Old-timers combined rub lines with scraped locations and terrain features like creek crossings and saddles between ridges to build a mental map of every mature buck on their property without a camera. A $300 trail camera tells you a buck was there at 3 in the morning. A rub line tells you where he is going every single evening while there is still enough light to take a shot. The trail camera industry needs you to believe technology is the only way to scout effectively. Your grandfather proved otherwise, with boots and eyes and a lifetime of paying attention to what the forest said. 6 methods: creek mud, the smoke cure, the acorn calendar, natural blinds, fox walking, the rubline map. None cost $1, none require electricity or batteries or cell service, and everyone builds skill that gets sharper with time, not weaker like technology. $24 billion a year. That is what the hunting industry generates by selling you gear designed to replace what your grandpa already knew for free. They took ancestral knowledge that put food on the table for generations and turned it into seasonal purchases. The scent spray you replace every fall, the trail camera batteries you swap every month, the food plot seed you buy every single spring. Dependence by design. That is how a $24 billion industry stays a $24 billion industry every year. Your grandfather would not recognize what we have become. He walked into the woods with a rifle, a handful of mud, and enough knowledge to fill a freezer. We walk in with $2,800 of gear and come home with excuses and an empty tag. And remember, if you want every wartime method I collected, including the ones that did not fit in this video, they are all waiting for you. In the Hunter's Vault, in the first link of the description below. The woods are patient, they hold the knowledge, they hold the sign, they hold the memory of what hunting used to be before the industry turned it into a shopping list. Your grandfather did not need a store, he needed the forest. The forest gave him everything he asked for. If this video opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button right now. Every like and share helps preserve the knowledge the industry tried to erase. The woods have been waiting for you to remember what they already know. Now go find a creek and get some mud on your hands.